everybody. Thanks for having me back. Thanks, Roger. I did?
Yeah, there was feedback and then it went out.
Hello, hello, hello.
Keep working on it.
Now? Okay? Sounded the same to me.
If it goes out, I'll bring it up.
Okay. So I was thanking Roger and Brigid in absentia for inviting me back. It's always great to come back to Albany. As Roger said, it's the closest unity. Do we call them churches still? Or? I just heard the Church of England stopped using the word church.
Really?
That was the open question. I haven't heard. But, yeah. It's not only Albany's not only the closest Unity church, it's the closest Trader Joe's. So I try to time my visits to stock up. I want to say something about the song that preceded the meditation. I was very impressed, and it's very important because it didn't say, I have peace, I have love. It said, I am peace. I am love. This is says something about what we truly are, doesn't it? Peace is not something we obtain. It's something we discover within ourselves when we become aware of what we truly are. The same with love. People always say God loves us. No, God is love. And so are we. But we'll come back to that. You may have noticed there's a presidential election coming up. How many have noticed? Okay. So the atmosphere is kind of heated, and it'll get more so. And people have strong opinions, and people are obsessed. And rightly so, but I don't want to jeopardize the tax-exempt status of Unity by taking a position or saying anything partisan. The question I want to raise is, given what's going on, is there a spiritual perspective that we can adopt or that's appropriate? Not just on this election, although that's what's on our attention, but social issues and politics in general. And the last year or so, I've spoken to a lot of people. You know, I have a podcast called Spirit Matters, and I interview people. And I'm researching a book, and I'm talking to people. I have a lot of friends. And this issue of being spiritual in this world of turmoil and chaos and political agitation, how do we negotiate that? How do we navigate that? And I've heard a lot of different perspectives. So I want to give you some examples. One school of thought is it's all so disturbing, it upsets my stability, my inner peace, threatens my connection to the divine. So I'm just protecting myself. I'm just going to tune out completely. Another complementary position is there's nothing I can do about any of that stuff. I'm just staying detached. I'm staying neutral, non-judgmental. Whatever happens is meant to be. I trust God, the universe, to work it out. And a variation of that is I'm above all that foolishness. I'm anchored in spirit. I know what's real. I know what's true. Nothing in the material world can affect me. To which I often say, I hope you're not kidding yourself. Because it would be nice. And on some level, it's true, because I am peace, I am love, I am unaffected. But the sort of Eastern variation of that I hear a lot is, it's all Maya. It's all illusion. It's unreal. Whatever happens or seems to happen isn't really happening. It's just a blip on the radar of eternity, a fleeting image on the movie screen of the infinite. What truly matters takes place on the spiritual level, and that's what I'm attuning myself to. Others might say, I feel for all the people who are suffering, all the challenges people are facing in the world. I'm doing everything I can to heal the world in meditation, in prayer, in spiritual practice, because that's where the real power is. That's what's happening. You may not know it, but when I get together with my group and we meditate and we pray, we're healing the world. And I'm thankful people are doing that. Another that I hear is, it's all God's will. Everything's in God's hands. I'm maintaining that spiritual perspective. Everything will work out according to the divine plan. And part of the divine plan is that darkness always comes before the dawn, and before the dawning of the new spiritual age that's coming, we have to have some chaos and destruction. Trust me on that. Then some people modify that and say the universe is unfolding as it's meant to. It's all in the hands of the divine, but it's not entirely inevitable or automatic. God needs our help. This is to make this new reality come to be with a minimum of chaos, we have to do our share. When I hear that, I'm always reminded me of there's an Islamic saying from the Middle East, trust in Allah, but tie your camel to the post. And I'm also reminded of a Hindu story of Lord Krishna. The village is under a deluge and a nonstop rain, which seems to show up in all the world mythology. And all-powerful Krishna can save the day, and he uses his powers to raise a mountain or a hill off the ground so everybody can take shelter. But he has each person hold up a stick so they feel they're participating. Then another perspective is that there are serious dangers afoot. We can't afford to be indifferent. It's irresponsible to just tune out, no matter how spiritual you are. You'll be impacted. If you're on the rooftop above it all, but the ground floor is on fire, you may want to do something about it, because it's going to get there eventually. So by all means, keep your spiritual perspective, keep your spiritual stance in the world. Protect yourself, protect that inner peace. But also hold up your stick. Do something useful. And part of that is that, we are spiritual beings, at one with the infinite, but crazily enough, we're also human beings. As long as we're walking around in these bodies that are affected by what goes on in the world, and we have family and friends and neighbors who are affected, even if we're so spiritually evolved that we maintain our peace and equanimity no matter what's going on, other people might not be. And do we have a responsibility to make their lives less difficult and contribute something positive to the collective karma? That's kind of the position of spiritual activists like Gandhi and Martin Luther King and so many others who use their position of deep spirituality as a launching pad to do something of use in the world. What I often call protect and serve. Protect yourself and then serve. So whatever form it takes, taking a God's eye view, taking a spiritual perspective, wherever you come down on political, social concerns, is helpful, because things always look different if you're on the roof than if you're looking out from the ground floor. And that is extremely helpful in these times. At a certain level, there's stuff going on that we can't control and we can't even comprehend. And there are mysteries afoot that transcend, the issues of the day and political concerns. And it's all on one level, what in India they call Leela, the divine play of the Lord. And on one level, none of it matters, because the universe is, vast and big, and life or death are sort of illusions from a spiritual perspective. On the other hand, we're still humans, and it does matter. Doesn't matter, it does matter. We matter. Everything matters, and everything doesn't matter. We're actors on a stage play, as Shakespeare said, but we have to play our roles as if it was real, no matter what your spiritual perspective. So it seems paradoxical, and it is paradoxical because life is paradoxical, and that's where we are. So each of us has to figure out how to protect our spirituality, to put that first, seek ye first the kingdom of God. And then, what do we do when we're out in the world and time comes to state an opinion or help somebody or vote? Speaking of which, last time I was in India, I heard a story. There was a smallish city, town, by Indian standards, small. And there were stuff going on, I forget the exact issues, but they were of great concern to the population. Things had to be decided. Health and well-being was at stake. And there was confusion and different opinions, a lot of anxiety. And there was a big communal gathering, and politicians and prominent citizens were making speeches and taking a stand, and people were confused. But on stage with the others was an orange-clad Swami who was held in high regard and reverence by the people. And he hadn't spoken. And people started saying, Swamiji, Swamiji, tell us what to do, They wanted the spiritual perspective. They wanted the voice of wisdom. And so he stood, and there was a hush. And he said, vote, and sat down. And I'll never forget that story, and imagining the shock and dismay of people who wanted to be told more. But I wanted to add one more perspective that I think is important and has been largely neglected, even in spiritual circles. And that is the matter of ethics and morality. This is on my mind a lot because Roger mentioned spirituality and health, as it's now called. But my next article for them is about ethics among spiritual teachers and leaders. I'm on the board of an organization called the Association for Spiritual Integrity that was started a few years ago by friends of mine to uphold the importance of ethical behavior in the domain of spiritual leaders, because there have been so many transgressions and upheavals. And this afternoon's workshop is also focused on that. What are the ethical and a certain system that comes from the yoga tradition of recommended do's and don'ts in our behavior that complement our spiritual practices and our spiritual growth. So this has been on my mind, and the election's been on my mind, and you can't escape it. And I started thinking that what we call character matters a lot more, and we have all this focus in the news about issues and positions and policies and bread and butter issues and that sort of thing. But what kind of people do we want in positions of influence and power? I'm old enough to have voted for the first time for Hubert Humphrey in 1968 in the first presidential election, and my first presidential election. And this has character, quality of ethical behavior and morality has become less important. And as a spiritual person and a spiritual teacher, I think I want to elevate that. Shouldn't we expect that the people who make decisions on our behalf and are entrusted with power have certain virtues that we, as spiritual people, uphold? We expect them of our friends. We expect them of our family members. We expect children to behave in certain ways. Why not do we want to just take it for granted that they're all liars and cheats, but it's okay? So if you look at the ethical codes of the different spiritual traditions, you, of course, find great variation. The Ten Commandments, for example, are very different in some respects from what you find in other traditions, but some are universal. They're cherished in every part of the world, whether they're encoded or just part of the cultural milieu. We value compassion. We value empathy. We value kindness. We value generosity, and especially among leaders, unselfishness. We value humility. We value truthfulness and honesty, respect for other human beings, concern for other human beings, integrity, dignity. And of course, in public servants, we want people who genuinely have a sense of service. We practice sacred service. These, to me, are spiritual virtues. As we grow spiritually, we tend to find it easier to behave in these ways. We find compassion comes a little easier, love comes a little easier, concern comes a little easier. And as we'll find out in the afternoon, there's a feedback loop. By consciously favoring these qualities, we advance spiritually. And by advancing spiritually through our other practices, we find it easier to display these qualities. Not perfectly. Just ask my wife, who's not here today, so I can say that. But moral and ethical virtues, as we call them, qualities, transcend politics. But when we see them on display in public figures, in friends, neighbors, they feed our spirit. They lift our hearts. They unite us. They elevate social life and communal activities. And very importantly, people who exhibit these qualities as public figures are better role models. I think sometimes we forget that young people see grown-ups on television and they look up to them. These are important people. They want to emulate them. And as grown-ups, as parents, grandparents, uncles, and aunts, we want to be able to say to young people, to kids, look at that person. That's admirable. That's the way to be in the world. You should aspire to that. Keep an eye on that person. And I have to say, I don't know what to expect from the generation of kids, especially boys, who have been watching public figures the last 10 years. I'm not naming names. But it's a legitimate concern. And as spiritual people, I think, we all want to be able to say, this is an exemplary person. If the Dalai Lama were on TV every day, you would be able to say that to your kids. If, Nelson Mandela was, But now, it's not quite like that in the world. And so I just want to put that on the table and for all of us to ask ourselves from a spiritual perspective, what kind of people do we want to see as our leaders, as our representatives? And one more thing, we need to ask the same thing of ourselves. What kind of people do we want to be? Especially during this heated election season. Are we living up to those standards that we want our leaders to exhibit? Do we have compassion for those we disagree with? Can we put ourselves in their shoes? Do we have concern for the condition that people we disagree with find themselves in? Do we have respect for their views even if we think they're crazy? Can we have a rational, calm conversation with them? I have to tell you, on the way here, as I was driving up Route 41 from Great Barrington to the New York border, I passed a house I hadn't seen, and it was filled. The house, the lawn, the trees, signs, and everything for the opposite side that I'm on. And I'm thinking, who the hell is that? And, what is that person doing? What are they thinking? I got to admit, they're brave to do that around here, but what's going on? I wish I could knock on the... No. You're about to give a sermon about this. Shut up. But we have to, look at ourselves as well. And, there's a school of thought that says we get the politicians, the public figures, the collective karma that we help create, that we, in a sense, deserve. Even though we think, we deserve better than this. Well, yes, but, we're part of the collective mind, the collective heart, the collective emotions and consciousness. How do we contribute? And can we do better, even as we expect others to do better? If we think we deserve better, we have to act like we do, at least to the extent we can. So thank you again for having me back. It's always a joy. I hope you can come this afternoon. Well, we won't be talking about politics, but we will be talking about cultivating certain qualities that accrue to our karmic advantage and our spiritual growth and development, and how we can contribute to the people around us better. So I hope you can all come. Those of you who are streaming, you have at least about an hour to get here. You can do what I did and record the football game so you can be here, and then fast forward through the commercials when you watch the game. That is a spiritual technique. Thank you all. See ya.